Hello, welcome to Jackrabbit Journal. Tom Nieman along with Hank McCall. And another season of Jackrabbit football starts this Saturday with the Jacks at TCU down in Fort Worth, Texas. And TCU has been a top 10 team the last two seasons in the big school, in the FBS ranks. They're number 13 in the country in the preseason this year. Why not? Let's go down there and play those guys, huh?
That's exactly right, Tom. A great opportunity for these guys to really test themselves early and certainly often here in the 2016 campaign. They're not going to see another group of talented players like they will this weekend at TCU down in Fort Worth. Certainly a great test for the guys. Really going to get an idea as to where they're at. A number of headaches I imagine the Horned Frogs will pose for this group. But hey, roll it out there, fellas. Give it everything you got.
All right. TCU was 10-2 last year. They only beat Kansas by 6. Jackrabbits beat Kansas last year. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the Jacks at TCU in the season opener this Saturday. We will run through the probable starting lineups on the offense and defense for the Jackrabbits coming up, go through the schedule, play a little win-loss game, and see how the Jacks we think are going to come out this year. We got a great feature on Coughlin-Alumni Stadium, the old Coughlin-Alumni Stadium, coming up a little bit later. But we sat here last year, Hank, talked about this again. Making the playoffs is almost a given right now for the Jackrabbit football program. They've been there 4 straight years. It's getting beyond that first round. Getting some playoff wins is where it needs to go, right?
Well, yeah, it's where everybody certainly would like to see it go. It's safe to say that this group, well, last year's group anyway, limped into the end of the season. It limped into the playoffs and then really ended on a negative note with the loss down there, out there, I should say, in Missoula, Montana. The bar is set. We talk about it year in and year out. What's it going to take for them to get past that first round or even that second round, especially if the road leads up through Fargo?
Yeah, and it's a great problem, I guess you could call it, to have those expectations, but that's where the program is right now. The Jackrabbits, of course, went 8-4 last season, won at Kansas in the opener, then won 5 of the first 6 games. They took a tough 10-7 loss at home to Northern Iowa on Hobo Day, and that kind of threw things off a little bit, but Jacks came back 2 weeks later, beat Illinois State, the number 2 team in the country at the time. And then the Jacks win the South Dakota Showdown. They come back with 20 straight points in the fourth quarter to beat South Dakota. But the last 2 games, as you said, disappointing. A loss on the road at Western Illinois in the final regular season game, and then the loss on the road at Montana in the first round of the playoffs. Coulda, shoulda, woulda been 9-2 going into that first round of the playoffs. Had a bye, but it didn't work out. So that's kind of the starting point for this season.
It is, and really unfortunate that things ended the way they did last year. But, you know, that was last year. It's all over now, guys. This is a fresh start, whole new season, whole new group of guys, really. Sure, you've got some veterans that are coming back that have seen some quality playing time, some guys you know you're going to be able to rely on, but there's a whole lot of new guys that are going to have to step up, find their niche, their role within this team, and make plays.
It's going to be fun when we come back. Taryn Christian will get the first snap of the year this Saturday as the starting quarterback for the Jackrabbits, and we will run down what else to look for with the Jackrabbit offense when we come back.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and Service First Federal Credit Union.
Welcome back to Jackrabbit Journal. South Coast State getting ready to open the football season this Saturday at TCU. And the Jackrabbits have named sophomore Taryn Christian as the starter at quarterback in this first game of the season. Hank, do you like this decision?
I do. I think it is the right decision. I think the big question coming into the offseason was just how much further could this young man progress with another year under his belt within the program? Familiarity with the guys, familiarity with college football at this level. What exactly does it mean? And I think he's answered those questions for the coaches. The talent was unquestioned last year. We saw it in the time that he spent on the field last season, and it was more than impressive. And I think that this year we're going to see him take some strides that are really have the potential to catapult this offense to a whole nother level.
Christian played 8 games last year. He started 4 games, and he says he is much smarter than he was last year as a freshman.
Really just being able to slow the game down, I think, with my reads. I know the playbook now. I'm getting even more comfortable with it. So now I can just progress my game more and be more comfortable back there.
All right, and it doesn't sound like it's a platoon system at all where both he and Zach Lujan will play. Lujan's a senior, but Lujan will be the backup. And I feel for the kid. He's a great kid. He's a really good football player, but Christian just beat him out. That's what it came down to.
He did, fair and square. And that's football, guys. Luan has had himself a great run at SDSU, and he's going to continue to do that this season as a senior in the blue and yellow. And he's the type of guy, he's exactly the type of guy that you want to be able to back up and mentor a young talent like Terran Christian. And I think that the team in general is going to be better off for having both of them on the team.
All right, meanwhile, the Jacks have two of, I don't think anybody would argue, the best pass catchers in the FCS level. Jake Winicky at wide receiver, Dallas Goddard as the tight end, and that's got to be a big help for a young quarterback like Christian.
Absolutely. Huge. To have two of the more dynamic talents really in the country, in my opinion. Jake, his numbers are unquestioned. All you got to do is look at him. You know what you're getting there. I expect Dallas Goddard to break out this year. He had a great season last year, but I expect him to build off of what he did last year and be even better.
Connor Landberg, a senior, and a redshirt freshman, Marquise Lewis, who will probably play in the slot position, are on the depth chart as the other two starters at wide receiver going into the first game. At running back, it's no coincidence, Hank, that the top three teams in the Missouri Valley last year, North Dakota State, Northern Iowa, and Illinois State, were the top three rushing teams. They ran the football better than anybody else. You got to be able to run the ball. Jacks, you would hope the Jacks, they were okay at it last year, but maybe could pick it up a little bit on the ground this year.
Yes, absolutely. Have to take some strides this year. We anticipated a bit of a drop-off, losing arguably the greatest football player in the history of the program in Zach Zenner. But the platoon kind of came together in a bit of an unconventional way last year with injuries, with guys being benched, and really not anybody really standing out in the group. This year, let's hope that somebody can eventually do that and be the lead guy, while at the same time understanding that, hey, I've got some guys who have certainly gotten some good playing time and are capable of backing me up if I go down.
And they're all back. Brady Mangarelli is penciled in as the starter at running back. Kyle Paris and Isaac Wallace both back as well at running back. The offensive line has two starters back, center Jacob Onasorgi and Charlie Harmon at left tackle. Another kid, Matt Clark, didn't start last year, but he did play a lot. He'll be at right guard. Tiano Pupangatoa, a former defensive lineman, will start at left guard on the offensive line this year. And then you got Nick Carr at 6'8" and 315 pounds. He will start at right tackle.
As a fifth-year senior, he's accumulated a lot of reps and really knows what we're doing offensively, so he's not a guy who needs a million reps. But he brings a lot to the table. He has great length, longest arms in our line, which really is a big thing in pass protection on that edge. So I'm expecting Nick to have a great year for us this year.
And Nick Carr played every game 2 years ago for the Jacks. He sat out last year with an injury, but back for his senior season now. And Jason Eck has been known to put together some really good offensive lines coming from Minnesota State in his D2 days, and then Montana State. He was a former player at Wisconsin. You like what Jason Eck is going to do with this offensive line? I
do. I like what I've seen so far, and I really like everything that I've been hearing as well. Fully expecting Coach Eck to get this offensive line unit back on track. Last year was too inconsistent and downright ugly at times. I expect these guys to come out with a new attitude and really get after folks early on.
All right, the Jackrabbit defense, meanwhile, led the Missouri Valley in points allowed last year. Do they have the dudes to do it again? We'll talk about some defense next. Welcome back. Getting ready for the Jackrabbit football opener at TCU coming up this Saturday. The SDSU defense will be tested, to say the least. What is a reasonable expectation, I guess, for the SDSU defense against the Horned Frogs, one of the best offensive teams in the country, coming up in this game Saturday?
I don't know what exactly is reasonable, but I do know that my expectation is for those guys to go down there and fully expect to win this football game. And what's that going to take? It's going to take a whole lot of extreme effort, to say the least. Plays are going to need to be made by guys at every single level on the defensive side of the football. Horned Frogs are going to spread out the Jackrabbits, and they're going to try and run as many plays as possible with all of the talent they have, both inside and out, on that offensive unit. So, the guys who are going to be lined up on the defensive side of the ball for the Jackrabbits, they are no stranger to these types of hostile environments or to this elevated level of talent. So they need to roll it out there, start out early, hit the Horned Frogs in the mouth, and get after them.
All right, the front seven for the Jackrabbits is going to be very good. You got Cole Langer, you got Jared Bloom at one defensive end, you got Kellen Solik and Christian Benaziak. Those will be the starters on the defensive line. And then at linebacker, Jesse Bobbitt is back for his third year as a starter. He was third on the team in tackles 2 years ago. He was second last year to TJ Lally, and Bobbitt most likely will lead the team in tackles again this year, although he is all about the John Stiegelbauer mantra of just do your job.
I love the 111, do your 111, do your job, because that's what it takes. You do your job, and after you do your job, you go make the play, and you count on each other. That's a huge thing in football, especially on defense, being accountable for your teammate next to you, the guy next to you, that he's going to do his job, and that's just all about trust. And so that's what we're trying to build here.
All right, so you got Jesse Bobbitt, Dallas Brown, Christian Rosaboom. Those will be the starters at linebacker, and then Dalton Cox and Cody Hazlett rotating in there at linebacker. Both safeties are back this year, Nick Mears and Nick Farina. And then we get to the corners, Hank, and we might be pleasantly surprised with what we see there. Who knows? It's going to be two young guys, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be two very young guys, and three or four actually young guys, depending on who's in the game at any one time. But the bottom line is these guys understand they've got big shoes to fill from last year. They don't have a whole lot of experience, but they should know and be confident in themselves that they're good football players. And if they weren't, they wouldn't be in the position that they're going to be in Saturday, which is on a big stage in front of a whole lot of people with a great opportunity to make a heck of an impression, not only on everybody that's watching there, but everybody that's watching back here at home in Jackrabbit Nation.
Quarterback coach Dan Jackson out of his mind excited, which he is about a lot of things, but especially about Zy Mosley, who will start at one cornerback spot, and then Jordan Brown, who played some last year as a freshman, will be at the other corner.
I played the playoff game last year, and I played probably 7 games, and we got a lot of young guys that we're going to be playing, so I feel comfortable. I feel like I'm leading the guys.
And there's some of that excitement out of Jordan Brown, and they're young guys, and they're just ready to get out there and play a football game. But this is a tough, very tough position to master, as you well know.
Oh, absolutely. One of the more difficult positions to master on the entire whole of the football field. But these guys understand that, hey, this is what we need to do in order to be successful. They had some great examples of what it takes to be successful at that position last year in Jimmy Forsythe and Jerian Butler. Yeah. Well, those guys are gone. My advice to the young guys today, take a look at what Jimmy and Jerian did in their preparation for the season, but also week in and week out. What did those guys do? How much film did they watch? What did they do at practice? How did they go about their business? Remember what those guys did and then multiply it times 2. Go above and beyond, fellas, because the learning curve is going to be steep. You're going to take your lumps, but you got to be able to bounce back off of that. Rely on your technique. Rely on your coaches. They're going to put you in position to make plays, fellas. You just got to go do it.
If we're assuming the rest of the defense is going to be very solid, other than the corners, we don't know hardly anything about these guys. Can you be really good at 9 other spots and maybe not quite as good at those corners right away and still be a good defense, or is that going to hurt you right away? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we certainly know they're going to be less experienced at those positions, right? So the guys up front in particular, the front 7 who do have a whole lot of snaps under their belt, yeah, they can go above and beyond and take a little bit of pressure off of these young guys. The guys in the back, Mears and Farina, they've got some quality playing time under their belt. They can be the types of mentors. They can be the type of support system that young corners certainly are going to need out there on the edge, out there on the island at times. No doubt about that. And they're going to help. But it's going to be a process in getting these guys ready to go.
We've talked about this for the last 3 or 4 years now. These young guys keep coming in at better and better talent every year, so we shouldn't be real scared if it says redshirt freshman next to his name. We'll see what happens with Mosley and Jordan Brown at the corners in the season opener at TCU. Well, up next, we will go through the schedule, play that win or lose game, see if we all agree on how the Jacks are going to come out this year. We'll do that when we come back. Welcome back. 11 games on the regular season schedule this year for the Jackrabbit football team. See what you think as we go through them here. Of course, the opener at TCU. If the Jacks could win there, it would be a monstrous upset. So we'll put down a loss there. But you got Drake in the home opener at the new stadium, and then Cal Poly on September 17th, and then an off week on September 24th. You get through those first 3 games 2-1 in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. Ideally, it's 3-0. That's where I expect them to be. But that bye week, it's basically the preseason, guys. We've got these 3 games to figure out a whole lot of what's going on with our football team, what we look like now, where we need to make some adjustments. We can do that, and then have a bye week to make some of those adjustments and prepare for the real season.
All right. Yeah, 3-0 to this point. All right, we'll go with that. And then October, the Missouri Valley Conference season starts. Western Illinois at home, and then at Southern Illinois. And then these next 3 games are going to be really, really tough and important. At North Dakota State, and then Youngstown State at home on Hobo Day, and then at Illinois State. That is going to be a tough stretch that is going to tell us a lot about the Jacks.
Oh, it certainly is. And, there hasn't been, nobody's really looked at this schedule and said, oh, it's ideal with some of the road games that you're looking at with NDSU and Illinois State. It's tough to win on the road in the Missouri Valley Conference regardless of who you're playing. The Jacks found that out firsthand last year. at the tail end of the season for sure. No, great challenges. If you can come out with one of those, either upsetting NDSU up in Fargo or taking Illinois State, who I don't expect to be everything that they were last year, you're sitting in a pretty good position come November.
All right, November, Missouri State and South Dakota at home. Those games on Midco Sports Network as well. And then finish up at Northern Iowa. Everybody thinks Northern Iowa is going to be really good this year. We will see by the end of the season. The goal, again, is to be one of the top 8 teams in the 2014 playoff field. 8 wins might do it to get a win, but there was only one 8-3 team that got a bye into the first round, or got a bye in the first round of the playoffs last year. So we'll see if the Jacks can get to that level, and then we'll see what happens then. Up next, we've got a very cool look at the legacy of Coughlin-Alumni Stadium through the eyes of 2 guys who had and still have a lasting connection to the old stadium.
Jackrabbit Journal on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and Service First Federal Credit Union.
Well, Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium is the new home of Jackrabbit football this year, and after 54 years, the old place, Coughlin-Alumni Stadium, is no more. But our producer, David Brown, has a great story on how 2 men from Brookings always had and always will have a grassroots connection to Coughlin alumni.
It's often said nostalgia helps us deal with transitions. Even when the transition is new and exciting, it only seems to increase the yearning for what once was. Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium could be a game changer at South Dakota State, but Coughlin-Alumni Stadium was a game changer.
When the Coughlin Alumni was built, it had to be way ahead of its time and had to be the best place around in the conference.
Well, actually, I thought it was amazing because, they had the huge cement bleachers, going up. They had those with the big press box on top. I've never seen anything like that except on television.
Opened in 1962, Coughlin-Alumni Stadium entrenched many of the same feelings people currently have on the new stadium, with fans holding a firm belief it could be something special.
The areas were a lot more open, and you had a place you could go anywhere around the stadium, basically. From the time I was old enough to know what sports was, I was always up to SDSU games.
Growing up in Brookings, Tim DeWitt idolized Jackrabbit athletics, and he wanted to find some way to get involved. In the 1980s, he finally got his chance and became SDSU's equipment manager, a position he held for 30 years.
It was something that was exciting, it was something different every day, and it was something that I just loved to do.
Tim retired last year, but he still takes some part-time work cleaning up athletic facilities all around campus. For him, it's simply a matter of pride.
We mow, we line fields, we set up for games, we do trash details, we fix baseball, softball, just everything it takes to keep the grounds up and all the teams going.
To the far side, handoff, Uyghur going behind the right side, has an opening, Uyghur, look out, 40, 50, 40, he's gone, touchdown Jackrabbits.
It's our history. It's what made this place special. The reason people keep coming to games is because of what was developed before us.
Just like Tim, Jeff Holm is a Brookings native who's now working at the very school that first piqued his athletic interests.
I don't know if it's possible to grow up in Brookings and not be a fan of the Jacks.
And if you were a fan of the Jacks, you had to be a fan of Coughlin-Alumni, even with all of its little quirks, like a very uneven playing surface.
You could stand on one sideline, look across at the other sideline at someone. If we were looking at each other, we'd only see ourselves from the waist up because that's how big the crown was.
But no matter the perspective, Coughlin-Alumni's memories are still very visible. Pieces of the old stadium still live on outside the confines of the field, including a chunk of the old end zone proudly presented at Tim's retirement party.
It's some dirt with some grass on it, but it's the memory of it, You'll never see that again in the new stadium. I'll always have it. Even if it ends up where I stick it in a bucket someday, I can say, hey, here's the turf. Here's the end zone turf from Coughlin-Alumni Stadium. How many people have that?
Tim waters and fertilizes the grass to keep it as fresh as possible, while Jeff keeps buckets of the old dirt around with the idea of possibly planting new grass or maybe even some flowers someday.
People love to look back and remember those items because those are good days.
Other pieces of memorabilia like chairbacks and bleachers are scattered all over South Dakota. It's the peak of nostalgia before the reality of novelty sets in. Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium is home now, and it is for the better. The brand new digs will undoubtedly be a selling point for future recruits. And turf has statistically proven to be easier on players' bodies than grass. But it won't be easy to let go of Coughlin-Alumni, because it's not easy being green or keeping green.
It was time that grass was getting more and more difficult to maintain in the northern climate and trying to keep on top of it. We needed to move on. We weren't doing the correct things for our student athletes and our spectators that we needed to do to provide them the environment that is expected these days.
You're so proud, it just makes you cry. You're like, it's here. We're going to be tops now. We're going to be top dog now. The new stadium wouldn't be here without Coughlin. Without the memories of Coughlin and what was done in our university to promote athletics and to do things at Coughlin, it wouldn't be here. So you have to keep that in your memory.
A great story, and a little bit ironically, the Jack season opener at TCU next week on a real grass field. We'll talk about that next week.